for making the time today, for joining us for this event on the power of cloud. I hope you are all well in those challenging times. I am personally very excited to host this event, and I'm going to start by briefly introducing myself. So my name is Raph Gilson. I'm a digital consultant at BCG in London. I am half Lebanese, and I joined Live this year. Today, we are very fortunate to have with us very senior executives from HSBC and Google Cloud. We have Ghinwa and Mahmoud, who are both Lebanese, and David, who is my previous boss. Ghinwa, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Raphael, and thank you for inviting me for this event. Great topic and great community, I would say. I've heard a lot about life, so I'm very super excited on this one as well, and privileged to be with you. So as Raphael said, my name is Ghinwa Baradhi. I'm Lebanese. I am currently the CIO for HSBC for Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey. I've been with HSBC for 15 years. Before that, I was with Emirates Bank, and before that, I was with Arab Bank. So kind of all my life started in IT and banking, and I'm still in banking. But I've come across all the verticals in the bank, across all the line of businesses. Today, the cloud now topic is extremely important for us all. So I'm really looking forward to have, and share with you a couple of thoughts of what exactly cloud means to us and HSBC in particular.
Okay.
Mahmoud, you want to introduce yourself, and then David can introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mahmoud ElAssir, and thank you, Life, for inviting me to this event today. I'm excited to be here, and it's my first kind of event with Life. I grew up in Beirut, and I went to AUB, and after AUB, I moved to the US. I spent over 2 decades with Verizon, and about 1.5 years ago, I moved to Google. At Google, my job is to lead customer experience for our strategic accounts in cloud. So I lead a global team focusing on our most strategic customers across industries and helping them transform, win in the cloud, and move their industries forward. I'm excited to be here today and share some of my experience and thoughts. Thank you for having me again.
Great, thanks. And I'm David Knott. I'm not Lebanese. I'm British. Currently sitting in the UK. I've been in enterprise technology for about the last 30 years, working mostly for very large enterprises. A lot of them banks. And I currently work for Google Cloud. I joined Google Cloud last year, and I work for Mahmoud in the strategic accounts team. I hope you just bear with me a moment. My machine has just started behaving very strangely. Raph, can you still hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Oh, jolly good. Okay, so it's just I lost sight of you there for a moment. Right, so just to prove that technology is not always trustworthy, which is one of the things I'll talk about a bit later on. Yeah, so with Google Cloud now. So prior to that, I worked in many companies. Just before Google Cloud, I was actually a colleague of Ghinwa's in HSBC, where Ghinwa runs, as she does now, Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey region, and I looked after strategy and architecture. And obviously, I worked very closely on HSBC's journey to the cloud and enjoyed it so much that I decided to come and do it for a living over with Google.
Thank you. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. I'm now going to present the agenda for today. I'm going to start with a brief introduction about the cloud market, just to give you an overview and a sense of how important it is becoming. Then Ghinwa will share with us some case studies from HSBC and explain the benefits of the cloud for HSBC. Mahmoud will then follow with a brief explanation of the cloud fundamentals, so basically how it works, and also a little bit of history to understand how it all started. And then David will then share with us some challenges related to the cloud, in particular to cloud adoption. And he will dive into topics around data, so mainly trust, security, and compliance. And then we will open the floor for questions and hopefully an interesting debate. So if you look at the cloud market, you can see that it's still in its early stages. However, it is growing, and it is growing extremely fast. And this is mainly due to two drivers. The first one is the rapid digital transformation, which is happening across all industries. And as we all know, this has been accelerated with COVID. And then the second is the technology needs. So basically, to mention a few, it is the multi-cloud strategy. So that means that you rely on multiple cloud providers instead of one. Cloud native, which means that you build directly to the cloud. And then the latest technologies that we all hear about, such as AI or advanced analytics, all rely on the cloud. And if you look at the market between 2015 and 2025, you can see that it's almost a 10x growth in 10 years. So this is quite significant, and it's expected to grow even more. Probably will reach $1 trillion soon. So now I will leave the floor to Ghinwa, who will share with us some examples at HSBC so that you can have a better feel of the power behind the cloud.
Thank you, Raph. Thank you. Very good introduction of what cloud is, investment on the cloud. And before we go into what is cloud and the details of it and the complexity or simplicity, it depends how we want to really look at it. I think there is nothing like to start, apart from starting with some examples, real examples of what really a cloud is all about and what can you really do with cloud. So I'll start with giving you an example on liquidity reporting. So for us in HSBC, as a like big bank, huge bank, liquidity reporting is a regulatory requirement. So it's not only us; it's for every financial institution. Liquidity reporting is mandated by the like of PRA in UK or the European Banking Authority or any other bank in any country that we operate. So it's a must-do. And some of those reports, when you really want to fetch a liquidity reporting, is extremely, extremely complex. To put things into perspective, one example of those reports would require around 160,000 data points in order for us to determine our ability to monetize liquid assets in a stress scenario. Okay. Now, this requires full detailed reporting for all individual entities where we exist, and we exist in over 60 countries. So we need to really pull all of this information across the group, and then we need to consolidate it in a proper holistic group view before we actually give it to the regulators. Now, and as an international company like ours, again, meeting those deadlines and those requirements in a timely fashion is extremely essential. And I think, everybody realizes now with whether, the pandemic or the way that we are operating now, those information are extremely, extremely essential to really be on the spot produced. Now, before we had the engagement with Google in this regard, we had many challenges with our infrastructure. This includes long turnaround time, and we used to have 40 hours on an average, actually, sometimes more than that, to produce such reporting. Data quality issues were really massive. You can realize that you have to really pull such information from multiple sources. And between structured and unstructured data, you get a lot of data issues that need to be sorted before you produce such information. And the third one is running on technology that is about to be unsupported was extremely a challenge for us, which required a lot of time and a lot of money in order for us to make sure that we are running the latest technology to produce such reports. So therefore, our infrastructure were kind of impossible to generate what exactly the requirements are on a timely fashion. So with the computing power that we've had with the cloud now and the Google, we've realized three major benefits. One, now we can generate such reports in 3 hours. So before we used to generate those reports in 40 hours on an average. Now in less than 3 hours, the reports are there. Two, we have less far data quality issues because again, the way that the tools and the tooling and the AI and the machine learning around such reporting can fix the data, it will be more structured. And the third one is we don't really have the trouble to provision for a new hardware or for a new infrastructure, or to worry about evergreening or sustainability services. So we rely heavily on those platforms, because those platforms by default, by nature, the cloud, how the cloud is set, really can fix, you can benefit from that. If we move to the next slide, there is another example that I can share with you, which is around what we call HSBC Kinetic. Now, HSBC Kinetic, this is our mobile first digital business banking. So currently it is available in UK. It is designed around the small businesses, small business and medium enterprise. And the main objective for that is like, how do we make the business banking simpler, faster, and more intuitive? So that's the main kind of objective of setting something like that we call Kinetic. This application, what it allowed us, there has been some leading features in the portal. One is you can apply for an account in minutes versus used to take us like, I don't want to say months, but it used to take us weeks in order for us to do that. Spend analysis that are now automatically categorized based on transactions processing that we do. And the third one, which is extremely important nowadays, is how do you provide an API integration to our customers? Because now it's all about the ecosystem. It's all about the integration with our parties, with other parties, in order to have much more feasibility and visibility to the way we run the business. If we jump to the third slide here, is like some of the benefits from specifically on the Kinetic. We took a decision to build a new proposition on the cloud as a cloud native, and which means you don't only get the benefit from the computing power of the cloud, but also more importantly is the feature around the cloud, specifically on AI and machine learning. Okay. Additionally, building something like that on the cloud as well will future-proof our technology stack. And this means you could scale easily, and if successful, for example, in UK, you have more time to market this portal and deploy it and roll it out for the other countries in a less time. And the technology stack has 4 features that are extremely important, and again, leveraging on the cloud and the platform itself. One, it is mobile first. So it's like you have the business side of the company, and then you have the cloud platform as the benefit. From the business side, it fits extremely well and in line with our group strategy of having mobile first, and making sure that such features are in the pocket of every customer. Second, security, because again, as custodians of our customer financial data, we need to ensure that their data is also at the highest secured level. And partnering with Google, we've also managed to integrate what we call from our side security and operation control to theirs as well, and benefit from both sides and make sure that we are aligned. Third is the customer insight. So we use cloud native big data, where again, we bring all of these structured data together and all unstructured data together. So we make it much easier for the customer to understand how exactly they do their work. And the fourth one, which is the most important thing as well when it comes to the technology, is the agile and DevOps methodology that we use. So, and what do you mean by that is like the cloud allows you to automate the way that we develop, the way we test in a much faster fashion. And essentially, like if I were to summarize what do you mean by DevOps is like release more, and break less. That's kind of the butter of what exactly DevOps really means. So in summary, if we move to the last slide from my side, is that, I can share, and that slide has more of use cases from, what we have done in HSBC. But two very important ones probably I'll share is the, the financial crime detection. where again, we've partnered with Google that help detecting money laundering, financial crime, and all of this using the cloud platform and using the analytics of the cloud. At the end of the day, we as a bank, we process trillions of transactions, financial transactions per day. So we need to figure out, which one of those might be criminal, might be fraudulent in nature, and that takes a lot of horsepower. And you simply you can say that, well, as an organization we can really do it internally. Yes, we can, but the time that it takes and the money that it takes and the investment it takes is really massive. So partnering with somebody who are already experienced, they can do the job, they've done the job, is like you scale much faster and you can do more of this very, very easily. Another example of, probably what I will pick from this slide is the foreign exchange modeling, which is extremely essential now with the volatile markets all over the world that is happening with the inflation in many countries. How do you model scenarios of the FX fluctuation and going up and down and inflation? It used to take us like 120 minutes to do the modeling. Now it takes us 10 minutes. So in summary, as at HSBC, we have determined that cloud providers now offer better, ways of or better benefits from scalability, flexibility, resiliency, which is extremely important, whether from an operation perspective or internal perspective or external threat, etc. So operation resiliency is extremely essential in that fashion. And the last or which are again quite of equivalent is the innovation, where we cannot in the long term match on our own quickly enough versus partnering with such great partners. So I hope those examples put things into perspective of how exactly you can use the cloud or where we as HSBC have used it. And looking forward probably to more Q&A on this matter. And I hand over to Mahmoud.
Hey, thanks, Ghinwa. I think Ghinwa shared how she and HSBC are benefiting from the cloud and how they're leveraging the cloud to help their business get faster and more efficient and create differentiated customer experiences. I thought I'll take a step back and talk more about the fundamentals of the cloud. So what is cloud computing? And this is I think everyone talks about cloud and utility model analogy. So let's take water. It's still like water. Everybody gets water to their house, but not everyone has a well, and they have to get the water out, pump the water out. Same thing like cloud. So basically, the cloud service providers would host all the computer and storage and network, and basically anyone can get access to this capacity or computing power by just signing up for an account and clicking a few buttons. This way, customers who choose to do that, they end up spending their energy on creating business value versus creating infrastructure. So this is where different businesses try to prioritize. Also, cloud, you can scale up and down. Historically, everyone built, basically every major enterprise built data centers. They had to invest major capital to build these data centers. And there's also lead time to get these data centers built. And any company or any business, they have peak volumes. They always have to scale for peak. And then when there's no peak, the hardware is sitting idle. So cloud allows you this elasticity where you can use as much compute and storage as you want. And when you don't need them, you can shut them down. Everything is automated and can be automated and data driven. You go to the next slide. One of the biggest components of managing infrastructure is how do you manage this massive infrastructure in the cloud? So throughout the history of Google, since Google was created in 1998, there is a project called Borg, and basically in Borg is the internal kind of a platform that allows basically management of fleet of servers, thousands and hundreds of thousands of fleets of servers, where you can run applications from thousands of applications from different workloads, basically, and from different teams and into different clusters that manage those hardware. And each cluster can be managing tens of thousands of servers as well. And over the years, Google kind of externalized this capability that basically what everyone knows as container. I mean, the history of compute, there's a physical machines, and then people, to create more efficiency with these machines, they created what's called virtual machines, which are virtual machines. Basically, one thing like one box that you used to have now can support 4 virtual ones, and then with container you can get another 4. Probably you can get 16 times, meaning you can almost have 16 different servers. So over the year, also Google continued to improve these capabilities, invest in them, and we open source them to the world. So externally, they're known as Kubernetes. So what Borg is known internally to Google as the platform and infrastructure management system, externally is known as Kubernetes. And that's also what we're investing in cloud right now, what's called Anthos, which is a managed Kubernetes platform that customers can run in our cloud and their data centers and other clouds like AWS and Azure. So because we are the open cloud where we can support multi-cloud and hybrid cloud, and we have the best, I would say, infrastructure, which is like Kubernetes and container management system. So going back, so if we keep going forward to the next slide, please. So our mission at Google Cloud is to accelerate organizations' ability to digitally transform their business with the best infrastructure, platform, industry solutions, and expertise. So we take all this innovation, and we're, over the past, I would say, multiple years, especially in the past 2.5 years since Thomas joined, we've put a huge focus on this. We put a huge focus on go-to-market and build customer empathy, and we hired all the right leaders across the board to get customers to work with us and partner with us. So far, customers, I would say, come to us for 3 main reasons. They come to get out of their data centers and migrate to kind of Google Cloud. The second reason they come to us is to data. Everyone wants to analyze their data and structured and unstructured data. So we have the best analytics and data management tools across the industry. And the third one is innovation. Every industry is trying to innovate, leveraging cloud faster and out-innovate their competition, I would say, and move their industries forward. So that's another third reason I would say customers have been choosing Google and Google Cloud. You go to the next slide. When you look at our infrastructure today, we have 25 regions globally. And basically, these are data centers or multiple data centers in one region. So we have 25 globally. We continue to build more. We have like 3 coming up later this year, and we continue to accelerate that build out. We realize as like a third kind of a player in the market, we're investing to not just catch up, we're investing to win. And we have a huge demand from our customers globally. We have customers in more than 200 countries. The beauty of our cloud also, like all of our regions are connected by one global network, so any users can connect to any region from anywhere in the world, and that's a simple side of it. Our network is, I would say, superior to anyone else. We have one, if you go to the next slide, we have one global network that handles today more than 20-25% of the internet traffic. Today at Google, many of you know, we have 10 products that have 1 billion user plus. We have 5 products that have 2 billion users. So all of these products are running in our data centers across these 25 regions, riding this global network. One data center can support more than 6 times the internet traffic today in terms of throughput. It's at least twice as other clouds. So lots of great, I would say, pride. And the question, what we've been doing, how do we leverage our capabilities to help our customers differentiate, win in their industry, and move their industries forward. We go to the next slide, please. So going back to like the first reason I said, customers come to us to get out of their data centers. So they'll be looking for global kind of scale, multi-cloud infrastructure, high performance compute. And this is where we provide. We support multi-cloud. We are the open cloud. We support private cloud, and we have one fabric that can go from our cloud to our edge cloud to like a telco edge cloud, what people know now is like mobile edge compute. And then we can also go on the on-prem on the customer edge cloud, and also in the home, we're creating the home edge cloud. And all of these clouds are connected by one fabric, meaning we can move workloads across any of these clouds with the same management tools. And you can tell from the stats we have like 14 quadrillion metric points that we watch across our network and our data centers. We support, as I mentioned, more than 20% of the internet traffic, and we have 3 times more throughput than our major competitors. Customers who've been moving to us, they've been realizing, I would say, on Antos, they've been realizing 5 times almost ROI within 3 years. Also, customers can move like SAP to us, have been becoming like cash flow or payback period is less than 5 months. So there are so many examples where everyone wants to get out of data centers to accelerate innovation, reduce cost, and also you can do lots of testing and trialing. Like today, everyone knows that A to B, with cloud you can do A to Z because you can have as many environments as you want, and you can shut them down when you don't need them. The second reason I said like customers come to us is for analytics. So if you go to the next slide, so customers here, they want to analyze structured and unstructured data in real time and on any cloud. Today we have the superior product in analytics. I mean, first of all, I talked about how we created Kubernetes and for cloud management and container. Also, the other part that Google is super strong at is AI. I mean, Google is an AI first company. When everybody moved to mobile first company in the world, Google moved to an AI first company. So everything, we have thousands of PhDs in machine learning and analytics. Also, one of the key kind of secret sauce at Google to make the business successful has been like BigQuery. So BigQuery is what we've been kind of making available for our customers to have, I would say, serverless data warehouse where basically compute and storage are detached. And this is like a unique capability we have at Google. Basically, you can scale linearly. You can send your data to like BigQuery, and you can scale. You can have as many users as you want. You can fire up as much compute as you want. And I think that's like what, like an example Ghinwa used, like when they went down from 40 hours to run to like 3 hours. That's like leveraging this platform, this analytics platform, and there is a lot more. So we have hundreds of customers of BigQuery running 1 petabyte scale data warehouses on Google Cloud. And this is where customers want to do data lakes, want to do data warehousing, want to do streaming, leverage AI, ML, and this integrated suite of analytics products together allow them to move super fast and create data-driven powerhouses across their companies and unlock the insights and the value out of the data. And that's a big one. Every company, every enterprise generate tons of data. I think few enterprises get the insights needed that they can get out of this data. I think by leveraging cloud, enterprises across the globe, and I would say historically it started with non-regulated industries, but now all the clouds and our cloud, Google Cloud, is supporting all these industries from enterprise ready, from encryption, data security, and data privacy, and data localization, and support localization, and all the certifications needed. So every industry is betting now their business on cloud and their transformation on cloud because they can use it to move faster. So we go to the next slide, talking about innovation. So we've been innovating across all industries. In retail, every retail customers, retail industry, they want to have e-commerce is the biggest thing. Everyone wants to be Amazon. So Google is the #1 cloud for retail customers. So this we have like retail search, you can have a recommendation, leveraging all the assets we have internally for search and IML. So we're leveraging all those assets for retail. That's the biggest, one of the biggest growing segments here. In healthcare, and right now healthcare is all about telehealth and medicine. In healthcare, we leverage cloud, Google Cloud. We also have Google Health and Verily, and we leverage all these assets to help our healthcare, I would say, customers differentiate. So I mentioned telehealth is one. Also leveraging AI ML, you can improve the technicians' productivity, and all the way from like organ segmentation and mammography and pathology, and where today you need to have a human to read all these like X-rays and MRIs, and tomorrow how do you have like machine learning read these and identify I would say, diseases sooner, and so you can have proactive measures faster and versus relying on just the human eye. So this is like powering, I would say, call it human plus machine. We can make them more productive and help patients, basically give them a better chance to recover faster. In financial industry, it's all about e-banking. That's again like what Ghinwa mentioned. It's all about the online bank, but also leveraging AI ML to do like anti-money laundering, know your customer, document AI, and accelerate all the processes that happens in the financial industry. Same thing in telco and media and entertainment. How do you change like the network? All the networks are becoming software defined, meaning they're becoming like IT. So how do you help them with like specialized network data lakes? How do you help them run their network on like an on-prem Google Cloud? Also, how are you building Google Cloud on the edge as a service? I mean, networks on the edge as a service. That's also coming with some of the telcos. Another area in media, we have some capabilities at Google Cloud that allow our media customers to differentiate and also leverage, do all the processing for their media content in the cloud. We just won, like Univision was one of the latest kind of customers we got on this cloud. Same thing, industrial and manufacturing, public sector, everybody, supply chain, talk about supply chain, which is like very fragile because you're getting pieces from multiple places. And so how do you do like forecasting for supply chain? How do you make sure you get redundancy in your supply chain? And how do you again leverage AI ML to improve your supply chain and so forth and so on across automotive and travel and transportation and logistics. And so I would say like everybody's moving to Google Cloud because we are kind of the open cloud. Also, everybody wants to leverage AI ML to build data-driven powerhouses. And we've been partnering with, I would say, our customers globally to help them differentiate and move their industries forward. So super exciting time in our industry, in all industries. So with that, I'm going to hand it to David, who's going to dive deeper into what is cloud for the financial services industry.
Thanks, Mahmoud. So actually, I'm going to ask Raph, would you mind going back one slide? Because I just want to illustrate how important this next topic is. So I come from banking. I'm used to, when you work in banking, you get used to the idea that you're asking your customers and your country and your industry to trust the bank you run with money and with the incredibly important and responsible job of running a part of the country's financial system. If you look across all these industries, you can see that increasingly the cloud industry, not just Google, but our peers in the cloud industry as well, are increasingly running large parts of the infrastructures of economies and handling extremely sensitive data. So I think healthcare, patient data, retail, transactional data, financial services, people's money, media and entertainment, IP, industrial and manufacturing, the supply chain that actually gets stuff done, and public sector governments. So there's an awesome responsibility of trust here. So one of the big questions we have to answer in the cloud industry is, why should our customers and the countries they serve and their customers trust that it's okay to move from private computing infrastructure that they own, run and control to shared computing infrastructure, that shared utility model Mahmoud talked about, and believe it's all going to be safe and it's all going to be okay? That's quite a big question to answer. So if you go forward to the next slide, please, Raph. So in financial services, we get these questions all the time, and I'm not surprised we get these questions. When I was a customer, I used to ask these questions. Can the cloud provider demonstrate that data is confidential, that privacy will be protected, that the people who operate the cloud platform can be trusted? Can we explain what happens when things go wrong and disasters happen? Are we at least as good, if not better, at cybersecurity than companies are themselves? Can nation states trust that having all their infrastructure in a small number of vendors is okay? And however much we like to partner with our customers, we are a third party, and are our customers able to trust that they're managing the risk of dealing with a third party effectively? So unsurprisingly, we and the rest of the cloud industry believe we have answers to these questions. I'll run through a few of them in a minute. But we also recognise that if our ambition is realised, which is to be a partner with major players across every industry, this is absolutely critical to our success. And anybody out there who's contemplating working with a cloud provider should be asking these questions as well. Let's give an example of how we answer some of these things. So if you go to the next slide, please, Raph. So the question of confidentiality is really, if you're going to put your data on Google Cloud or Amazon Cloud or Azure, how do you know, given that this data will now be sitting on disk and on servers alongside other people's data, that only you can get access to it? So the way we address that is encryption is at the heart of cloud. It's one of those technologies which we don't always see, but makes things like the internet possible, makes cloud possible. Cloud providers such as Google encrypt data to a higher degree and more pervasively than is typically done on premise. We also offer and provide comprehensive software mechanisms to be sure about who has access to what data and when. I think one of the key things that attracted me to cloud is that for years I've built up infrastructures, and we've typically added additional security measures to deal with the fact that things that weren't on the internet are now on the internet. Things that didn't have millions of users now have millions of users. We've added these security features. I think one of the things that's good about cloud is that these security features and confidentiality features have been built in from the ground up. So pervasive encryption from the ground up, pervasive identity access management from the ground up. If you go to the next one, Raph. So let's assume we address the confidentiality problem. There is a profound question, which is, our customers will place a lot of faith in us, and they'll become dependent on us to run their services. Similarly, economies and industry sectors will become dependent on cloud providers. So a valid question is, how can we trust that it's possible to carry on running those industries and running a business if the cloud provider fails in some way? So the way we address that, and you heard Mahmoud say that we are very strongly committed to open source. So we believe in open source, we believe in open standards. Google invented a bunch of the open standards that run the internet and run infrastructure today. We continue to apply that to say, for us, multi-cloud, portability, and creating for our customers the ability to exit is an absolutely essential part of the way we operate. So we want people to come to our cloud, but we want them to also know they have a way off as well. Then we go to the third slide, and go to the next one. And this is interesting because this is a question that all cloud providers get asked, but Google probably gets asked it more than anybody else, because Mahmoud shared Google Cloud's mission, but we're part of Google. Google's mission, as you may know, is to organize and make universally accessible and useful the world's information. So we have a lot of information. We're known as, Google's first known as you put your term in the search bar and you get the results back. So one of the questions we get is, okay, if I put my data on your cloud, does that mean it's mixed up with everybody else's data and it'll come up in search results, which I'm sure you already know the answer is no. But we're a data company. So one of the things we've had to demonstrate, and not just build into technology, but built into legal frameworks as well, is to demonstrate that when people put data on Google Cloud, only they have access to that data. They have complete control out of it. We have neither interest nor ability to access that data. And again, I would regard that as a price of entry for any global cloud provider. So just to summarize on those topics before I share with you a little bit of an example of, if you put all this together, what's possible, is that I personally think part of the reason I joined Google, and why I was such an advocate of cloud in my previous job, is that this is a transformational technology that makes wonderful things possible. But just like the banking sector, it demands a very high level of trust, and that cloud providers have a very high obligation to fulfill that trust, and that's what we're trying to do. If we go forward to the last slide, just to give an example of what's possible. So contact center AI, otherwise known as CCAI, is an example of the kind of solution that's emerging from the cloud industry. now. This is what you get when you put together global scale compute, global scale networks, AI and machine learning capabilities, and companies that are oriented towards innovating around AI. Again, I've worked in banks a long time. Contact centers, call centers have always been an essential part of the operation, but they've always been costly, and they've always been had a limited capacity to handle volume. When we apply AI and data to that problem, we create the opportunity to understand customers better, to create agents, virtual agents that can sit alongside human agents and interact with customers in a seamless fashion and help the human agents, and completely transform the proposition of what a contact center can be. And I think part of our mission is to use our platform to create this kind of data and AI empowerment for all industries, not just contact center. So hopefully that's been interesting. I think, Raph, we're at the last slide now, which hopefully says Q&A. So I think we're going to hand back for people to ask us any questions they've got that came out of that session.
Yes, thank you, David, and thank you, Ghinwa and Mahmoud, for this great presentation and those great insights. So we will now open the floor for some potential questions that the audience may have. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and see whether some questions pop up in the chat. So I can see that Jihan has just asked for people to raise the questions in the Q&A section. So we'll wait a few minutes to see if some people have some questions.
I can see there's a question in there, Nera.
Yeah. Are cyber attacks harder in the cloud? Should I take a shot at this and others can answer? I would say I was asked the same question. I was having dinner with a board member at Verizon when I was at Verizon, and the question was asked, is the cloud safe? And the answer has always been like, the cloud can be safer if you know what you're doing. But the idea is like cloud companies are investing tremendous amount of energy, resource, and capital in making sure the cloud is secure, especially like Google, where anyone would want to get into our products and customer data. So security is primary kind of factor. But then when customers start using cloud, I would say because the cloud has everything automated, historically when you're on-prem, you put a perimeter around your data centers and only God knows what's happening inside, because you got different ISV like partner, you have different tools and different products from different customers, and not all of them would work with each other. So it's very hard to automate. You end up buying multiple tools to automate and you're still not complete. I'd say because the cloud provides everything through like one platform, provides transparency in terms of APIs and console, and everything like works together well. So you get to automate. And once you automate, as you mature through that cloud journey, you can also automate the correction for anything that gets set up, because you can say, I want everything to be encrypted. I want everything to be, all the IPs to be restricted to the server. You can do anything, and anything starts, you can check all of those and you can react according to the rules you set up. So I would say the cloud can be more secure. That's be my answer. I'll open it up for others.
Can I add something, Mahmoud, here as well? I think, at the end of the day, cloud is another data center, like if I were to really like simplify it in a simple term. And I think, with the examples that we've given is when you move to cloud platforms, there are many reasons for that. One of them is the scalability, and one of them is to make sure that you are on track, with the exact or latest technology, that you want to really do. And it is so hard to really keep track on evergreening all your platforms when you are really, as a financial institution or any industrial institution, that you will be distracted with the the investment that is needed, with the complexity, with the time to market, with the requirements, etc. So when you do something like that with like the like of the Google as an example, you know, the investment is quite more advanced, I would say, in other terms. However, the way I would probably answer this question very specifically, it's all about the controls that we have to put, whether from the institution that is, you know, building solutions on the cloud or with the cloud providers. No matter how much, you know, you do, it's all about the controls, and those controls can be a set of many things. And those controls, if they fail you at the data center that you own, or it could fail you at any cloud provider. But the more you move into those cloud environment, you know, the probably you are much up to speed with what exactly is happening and in terms of the controls, because this is how you do things, and this is kind of what you are supposed to really do versus the others.
Yeah, and I may just offer, so I think Mahmoud have covered most of the topics, but I'll just offer one thought, which is, to me, when I've been working on cybersecurity in traditional infrastructures, one of the biggest problems is knowing what you have, knowing inventory and asset management, so knowing what servers do you have, what software are they running, and what vulnerabilities do they have. And on premise, that is a continuous journey of discovery, deploying agents, running scans, all that kind of stuff. For me, one of the examples of how it's different in cloud, different in kind, not just in degree, is that everything is explicitly defined and declared. Something can't exist unless you've declared it to exist. And if you declared it to exist, you know it exists. So therefore, just knowing what you have and managing the vulnerabilities across that state is a lot easier. So for me, one of the propositions of cloud is you have a fully data-defined, fully software-defined estate, and just knowing what you have alongside all the other security features of cloud is a huge step forward on cloud. But to finish, Mahmoud's point, you can be safer on cloud. Cloud is also built to be internet facing by default. You can leave the front door open as well, as sometimes people have and suffered quite well publicized attacks. So Ghinwa's point, you don't build the controls, you probably suffer the consequences.
Thank you. Thank you for answering this question. We have 3 other questions. So the first one is, can you walk through what makes a market zone 1, 2, or 3, and why some markets are slower than others? Who would like to answer this one?
I would say, I assume, like, what's a tier 1 country versus tier 2 and 3? I would say it's based on the targeted, I would say, market opportunity, right? So you kind of flag how much money we can make in every region. Like, it's a business plan, right? So the business plan needs to say how much investments we have to make and how much like potential customers we have. So you end up segmenting and investing in these different markets based on the business opportunity. And you tier them this way, you resource them this way, you build data centers that way. And in many cases, we have, I would say, we've made many deals in tier 3 countries because there was money, but I would say there is general kind of a tiering, and then there is, like, based on opportunities, you go where the opportunities are. That's I assume that's a question. I assume that's how I understood the question.
Yes. Yes, I think you've answered it. Does anyone would like to add something?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, perfect. We have another one from Jad, so it's I'm going to read it. I have a question regarding scale. I found working with medium-sized companies that some of these solutions tend to be too expensive, technical overhead to set up, compared to staying on-prem or doing a hybrid model. I saw that Mahmoud presented about these hybrid cloud models, but what about other services like automated ML, NLP, etc.? How does that look like?
See, there are lots of reasons. So we have all these capabilities available in the cloud, and we understand for different reasons. Some customers prefer a private cloud because some services needs to be more network attached. So that's why continuously we're moving the cloud further to the edge into the customer prem. And we're also along the same lines. We are evolving our services that are available in the cloud, also to run on the edge and like private kind of settings. We have some specialties working on that. I would say in private cloud today, we have our NLP. We have a version of our NLP that you can run it on-prem, and that was made available sometime last year. So continuously make some of these capabilities available on-prem. There are areas where we're also looking, can we take our entire cloud, deploy it on-prem? That it needs to be massive, I would say, deal size to allow that type of an investment. And we're doing it in a couple of places, I would say, today. So it's again the size of the investment, the priority of the investment, but we are making some of these capabilities available on our, I would say, through like Antos, which is our kind of hybrid platform.
Yeah, and I think I just add a couple of points on the continuum of companies. So we have customers, and again our peers have customers everywhere on the continuum. You know, small, medium, large. We've tended to focus on the very big customers in this conversation because that's where we spend our time. But we have, you know, hundreds, then thousands of smaller customers. I think it's true to say that new companies today, if a new company is starting and they, particularly if they have a technology proposition, they start on the cloud. I think the market for people to go and buy and build their own data centers and acquire physical infrastructure is waning very, very fast at the moment. I think in the mid-range, I agree with you that there can be, yeah, we talked about controls. There's quite a lot of work to do to control the cloud. In terms of consuming the services, it can actually be pretty fast. So I think there we probably see fewer great big cloud migration programs and more incremental adoption. So people get comfortable as they go along. And then the great big companies are the ones which probably have the toughest work to do because they've got the most existing estates, but also have the most investment available to run great big multi-year programs. So I think there are different styles, but I don't think we're seeing any company size that's not starting to make the move. And interestingly, the smaller they are, the newer they are, the more likely they are to start on the cloud and stay there and never dream of doing anything else.
Okay, thank you very much. And conscious of time, we have a final question to end this discussion. And this one is around the cloud adoption strategy. So could you discuss the considerations and approaches companies that move to cloud have to take into account, i.e. data protection, utilizing data in the most effective and ethical way, legal considerations with GDPR, CCPA coming into effect? So I guess here really the question is around the strategy and maybe what are the first steps that one should think about when adopting the cloud.
Can I go? Oh, sorry, come after you.
I'll give the client view, David, and then probably you'll give the. I think if I take the great question, by the way, if I take the financial institution, in summary, I'll give you, based on my experience, what are the major challenges we face with regulators, right? Because we are a financial institution, by default, we get regulated, we operate based on a license in a company, in a country X. And those countries in general, if I were to summarize all of them, and the main concerns they come to us with is like, you know, where is your data? And whenever there's data, where the data is, you know, who has access to the data? Okay. And the third one, if your data is wherever, are you sharing it with someone? So those are major questions, and three major questions that come from all of this, and which is again falls you know, part of the GDPR, sorry, with or the CCPA or even the PRA asks those questions. Anybody asks those questions, and it becomes again, you know, like not only the regulators, also you're talking from a geopolitical point of view. Here is the national security comes in between and say, tell me where is the data, etc. Because by default, countries, when they regulate the financial institution, the jurisdiction of this data belongs to the jurisdiction of the country that you are operating. That's by default. Now, what exactly we do as a company with HSBC, again, going back to, I think, two things. One on whatever I mentioned on the control, and I think the other aspect on the risk and issues and the trust that David shared as well, along with Mahmoud. The importance aspect here is the partnership with the company that you are really dealing with, and really work together to address those concerns through a proper framework of control libraries, to say, you know, all of it together. Because at the end of the day, you as a company, whatever your data is, you own you own the data. Yeah, the data of the customer is our ownership. It doesn't, our data on Google is not owned by Google, it's owned by us. We hold the keys, we hold the cage. You know, no one, if somebody can access the data doesn't mean anything, because, you know, you have to really, you know, scribble your data via, you need to make sure your logical data model is not really understood. So there are so many controls that you can go on and on, whether, you know, segregation of duties or access management or conflict of interest or cyber or the data leakage or the data management. All of these, you have to really go one by one and say, what are the controls, who has what and who has what and who has what. So it's a kind of a partnership with the vendor in this scenario, such as Google. But most importantly, when you want to put such a strategy in place as a company to say, we want to go to cloud, you need to understand what does it mean to the organization and what does it mean to the regulators, and how can I make sure as a financial institution I keep my regulators you know, satisfied, because at the end of the day we get the license from them. So it's extremely essential to align with the like of the GDPR and the rest of the GDPR.
Thank you, Ghinwa. So I won't add very much to that, because I think it was a very comprehensive answer. I'll just add probably a couple of thoughts. So the first is, I think one good development in the industry, which I think reflects the increasing growth of cloud and the maturity of the industry, is, you know, back when Ghinwa and I started on the cloud journey at HSBC, a lot of those controls we had to figure out for ourselves, because we started pretty early in the industry. There are now emerging industry standards. So there's a thing called the Cloud Security Alliance Cloud Controls Matrix, which has become pretty much an accepted industry standard, which has a very comprehensive list of controls. So if you want a start point, I would go there, and increasingly companies I'm working with are just taking that as their default baseline for cloud controls. I think the other really important point Ghinwa made is there is a clear separation of concerns in the cloud provider. And if I go back to the utility model, it's a bit like, you know, you get the electricity delivered to your house. The electricity provider is responsible for running the cables, making sure they're safe, delivering the electricity, responding to issues, that kind of stuff. What you choose to plug in, you know, what appliances you use and all that kind of thing is still your accountability. So it's still up to you to make sure that they're safe and they're doing the right job. So I think in the question, there's some questions around GDPR and privacy and things like that. And you should absolutely make sure your cloud provider respects those and is giving you a platform where, you know, they don't see the data. But at the end of the day, the accountability will rest with you for GDPR compliance, and particularly data ethics, you know, using data in the right way to serve your customers in a way they expect. The cloud provider won't solve that for you. We have some interesting points of view on it, but we won't solve that problem for you. It's your data and your customers.
Thank you. Mahmoud, is there something you would like to add, or?
No, I think Ghinwa and David added, I mean, they had a great answer. It's a great question and great answer. And I would say nothing to add. It's, I'll just give an example. Like every service, usually to be enterprise ready, you need to have the service to support like customer managed keys for encryption, right? So this is like on every kind of service product roadmap. If you don't do that, enterprises won't use your service. So that's what we call it, like enterprise ready cloud, meaning every service can support what the enterprise needs from a security and privacy perspective.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Mahmoud. Thank you to everyone for making the time, and a special thank you again for all our panelists today who made this event happen. And it was a great event, and I'm sure Life will be pleased to share it with other members who couldn't attend today. So thank you again to all of us, to all of you, sorry. And on this note, we can end this event.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Raph, and really thank you, panelists, for your time and your insight. And we look forward to doing it again.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All-
Thanks.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Bye.